Hello, everyone. This is Jason Rolen, voice of H2O Wrestling, and you're drinking at Moe's. Keep on rolling, everybody.
All right, everybody, taking time out before we get this show started. I want to thank Reaper Apparel for having Drinkin' Mo's be a brand ambassador for their clothing line. They got good stuff. They got t-shirts, they got hoodies, they got beanies, they got lots of great stuff, encouraging everybody to break out of their comfort zone, live their best self, and hey, it's something I try to live every day. Now, be sure when you go and you're filling out your order, use the code Drinkin' at Moe's, get 10% off, and the link and the code will both be in the description. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, welcome Drinkin' at Moe's. Big Mo here. YouTube, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff, because I need help. People finding me in that pain in the ass YouTube algorithm. Most places you can find audio podcasts too. Today, I'm excited to have with me the voice of H2O Wrestling, Jason Rolen. How you doing?
How's it going, everybody? And thank you for having me on, Mo.
No, you're very welcome. I've been excited because H2O Wrestling has been very good to me. I've had, good Lord, I'm losing count of how many talent that have gone through H2O that I've had on.
Right.
Especially a lot lately. I just seem to be getting a lot of them lately. And, to get somebody behind the commentary on, I was excited. I was excited to finally get somebody like that on, because I go with people, wrestlers, commentators, ring announcers. I've had photographers on it, to everybody.
Yeah, indeed.
And, well, I'm trying to think. This last weekend, I actually got to again meet somebody that's a former champion there at H2O in Manders. I was at a show for Sammy Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver.
Yes,
and
yes.
That was a rather fun time. I finally got to see past guest Alex Colon live in person, even though I have signed ring-worn kick pads of his right here. Let's see who else. The Grizzled Young Veterans going up against the Rascals. That was epic.
Yeah, I have heard nothing but good things about Wrestling Revolver. They're doing a lot right now.
No, definitely. And, speaking of Grizzled Young Veterans, I even got them to go along with doing a little hype video for the channel.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I gave them the idea. Grizzled Young Veterans. My wife likes to joke with me, calling me old, so I'm like, Grizzled Old Veteran. Let's run with it. So I was like, I don't know. Maybe it's me being my worst critic, but I was kind of not expecting them to go along with it.
Right, yeah. You're always waiting to hear the no at first, which in turn can make a lot of people not want to even reach out and even ask the question of do you want to do this, because they already got preconditioned in their mind. Oh, they're going to say no, so I'm not going to bother.
So, and for a guy that, I'll admit, I'm a big fucking introvert. So reaching out can be very out of my comfort zone. But I've learned through the whole process, like hell, when I had the SAT on, like one of my first really big names, I remember reaching out and I'm like, I know this might be a long shot, but here, let's see if it sticks. And then boom.
Right.
So yeah, very proud of myself. So first thing, uh, like my Dr. Pepper, but it gives me the burps like crazy, damn it. But first thing I like to lead off with everybody with is what got you started as a fan, and then how did you make that leap into getting to be one of the voices of H2O Wrestling?
Well, so I am 33 years old. So I started watching wrestling when I was about 3 or 4. So we're talking, the not so great years. So to some in wrestling, WCW was in a transition period. WWE was in the new generation era. So I started watching when I was little. My parents would take me to shows at the old Core State Spectrum, when it was given that title, and then the Core State Center, which then obviously went for so many names, and now is the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. The show that they had before the Super Bowl, it was called Pregame Pandemonium, that they would run on Sunday afternoons right before the Super Bowl. There's one I remember happened back in 1997. It had the triple threat match of Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Sid when they were battling over the WWE Championship. So I remember going to that. I remember going to Nitros and Thunders when it would make its way into Philadelphia. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to WrestleMania 15. It's not fondly remembered as a great WrestleMania, obviously, but I remember going to see that. So obviously, I was always
you've done something. Interrupt you. You've done something that I haven't yet. I have yet to attend a WrestleMania. It's like on my legit bucket list, like my wrestling bucket list. I don't care if I have to have binoculars to be able to see anything.
Yes. Fortunately for us, we were in the 10th or 11th row because this was back at the time, and even in the late 90s, they were still doing this. We had I mentioned this one on my social media. So I follow one of those accounts that does like the on this day stuff. So I like to give my little 2 cents on some of the things because even though I'm still in the business, I still like to be a fan at heart. So I like to give my comments and opinions on things because I think too many people still nowadays believe that once you get into the business, you have to stop being a fan. Now, you don't want to go too ridiculous at being a fan, I think. So I would agree on some of that sentiment. But you can still have, especially if you're on the independent level, you can still be a fan of what's going on television. And it doesn't, I don't think it's looked down upon as much as it was even 5 years ago, I would say. But you don't want to go, again, you don't want to go overboard on it. So I made the comment when brought up there was a Sunday Night Heat taping that took place in Philadelphia. I remember vividly going to that show and them handing out mail order forms to order, via, just mailing it in for WrestleMania and how many tickets did you want. And I remember the prices. Front row was $400 and the all on the floor was $100. So I went with my parents and a few other people. It was about 8 or 9 people and was able to go 10th, 11th row for that WrestleMania in Philadelphia.
Wow. And if you want anything,
it's like 10 times as much now. You need to put out life insurance on yourself to be able to go to WrestleMania now. It's ridiculous.
Take out a second mortgage.
Yeah, second, third, fourth mortgage on your home. Put yourself up for sale, for goodness sakes. Well, it really is. With this year's WrestleMania being in the Philadelphia area, it's like, you always have the hope of wanting to go. Like I've never been to Lincoln Financial Field where the Philadelphia Eagles play because it's very expensive to go to NFL football games nowadays also. So obviously the hope is there. Maybe the cards will align themselves, but if not, I'll be just fine watching it. With friends or wherever nearby. The goal for me is to try and get myself out there, especially next year. My big goal is to try and get myself out there, not just be, just only doing H2O wrestling commentary, but try and branch out and try and find some work with other companies and get my name out there. Because, I this year especially, I think I've really found myself as a commentator for doing play-by-play, and I want to be able to showcase that and to many, many companies, whoever will have me.
No, yeah, and you do great. I've through the people that I've had on as of late, like through some financial, like I had to do some cutbacks. I got rid of IWTV, but through talking to everybody and them telling me about all these killer shows and matches, I'm like, holy crap, okay, it might be about time I look into getting that back. And I have
Right.
not been disappointed. Holy moly. Like, I know one of the first ones I watched was the 200th live event,
Yes.
which that was
Back in September, yes.
yeah, that was amazing. And getting to see the cuffed in the cage match, I was like, I don't know what I was expecting, but it for the type of fan that I am, I was loving it.
Right. And to continue on with your question, your first question, how I got into doing commentary is for those who have listened, they're watching this and have watched H2O shows. Everybody I'm sure is well aware at this point that my best friend is Alex Stretch. He's been my best friend for about 7 years now, going on 8 as of next year. I will never take credit for introducing him into it. All I did was just say, hey, this is going on. You should check it out. He did all the work himself. But, 2 years in, I was saying to him, hey, we should go check out these independent shows that are around the area. And we had worked at the same job. We were both, pushing carts at a local grocery store. And he had always talked about, he had done backyard and stuff when he was younger, and he wanted to go to an actual school and get the proper training and stuff like that. And I mentioned to him that, all these companies locally in the area. So eventually I was able to coerce him into going to Tournament of Death in 2018 when it took place over in Berlin, New Jersey, at some like makeshift hockey outside venue. This is the Tournament of Death that Jimmy Lloyd won. And he went to that and he was immediately hooked him, and he saw him won the non-tournament matches, Matt Tremont. And he had remembered that back in the day when he was a younger self with his aunt, he had went to a local independent show when Matt was in the early days of his professional wrestling career, and had talked with him and stuff like that. So it immediately came back to him. And then through that, a couple months later, the H2O Wrestling Academy was getting ready to open its doors. So we went to, at the time, at different points, there was these viewing parties to watch WWE pay-per-views. Took him along. I was like, hey, man, the school's opening up. You might want to talk with Matt about, seeing if you want to get yourself started. Went to that. He spoke with Matt, and the rest is history. He was there from the first day that the H2O Wrestling Academy opened its doors. So I will never take full credit for Alex becoming what he is right now. It's just a matter of, hey, all I did was just open a door. It was up to him to get that door down, and he has done so. And obviously, you've seen what he's been able to do with himself.
Oh yeah,
and I will always be, and I will always be proud of my best friend for that.
Well,
so in doing so, I'd always wanted to be a commentator. Ever since I was little, getting into professional wrestling, I'd always wanted to be a commentator. I never wanted to wrestle. Yeah. I never wanted to be one of those guys that stepped in foot in the ring. One, because, from a younger age, I've always been a bigger guy. So I've always had issues with weight since I was younger. Still to this day I do. And never have the most, physically active person either. Also, as you noticed, wear glasses. I wear pretty much glasses on a 24/7 basis. My eyesight is not good at all. Without glasses. Like if I take off these glasses right now, I'm looking at you in the camera mode, and you be a blur to me. So it's one of those things. It's like, and you need that eyesight to be inside of a squared circle like that. So I knew at a very early age that I would not be able to be a professional wrestler. But could I do something else involved in the wrestling business? Yeah, sure, I could. And about a year or so into him being around, and H2O starting up the undiscovered student shows for all the kids that had signed up to the H2O Wrestling Academy as a way to get them experience, I made the notion to say, okay, let me reach out to Matt and see if I could be a part of the H2O Wrestling Academy, not training as to be a wrestler, but training to be a commentator, and he told me himself when I had that conversation with him, that doesn't happen. Even if you want to be a commentator even on the independent level nowadays, you still have to at least take part in some form of facet of wrestling training. But he afforded me that opportunity because I think I would hope to say that he saw the passion I had to want to do this, to be able to provide me the platform to be able to be a student at the H2O Wrestling Academy, but just focus on getting reps in and getting experience to be a commentator. So my first show was the one undiscovered we had right before everything shut down. It would literally the week before everything shut down. We had an undiscovered show. I was able to call that, and then a week later we had our Hardcore Kingdom show, and then right after that Monday, that St. Patrick's Day, boom, everything gets shut down, including us, for about 2.5 months.
Yeah, that was a wacky time to say the least for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah, it was crazy. Just the unknown of is everything going to come back? Is what's going to change? All this and that. Like, you just didn't know.
Yeah, that was. I remember thinking, like, oh God, like, people didn't know, like you said, if stuff was going to open, if it was everything was going to have to always be a different way, different precautions and stuff. So I'm glad that things are at least basically back to normal.
Yeah, I would say about the last year and a half or so, it's been back to normal. But for that 2020 and even 2021, it was rough. It was rough. Thankfully, companies like us and GCW and ICW, we were the first companies to start back up during the pandemic when everybody else really wasn't. And all those companies thrived. Deathmatch wrestling really was able to become part of the forefront of independent wrestling because of the pandemic. It actually allowed it to be seen by a lot of people, and so much so that it became in the mainstream with people like Nick Gage getting to wrestle on television.
Oh yeah, and the way I like to think about it back then, because I was already a fan of deathmatch wrestling, but with everything being the way it was like many people that might not have had their eyes on it started getting them there, because it was like, no, what do we do? Trying to find some form of entertainment, and then boom, they find that. And one thing that I like about deathmatch wrestling is it's one of those things that, like, if it's on TV and you're passing by and you, like, out of the corner of your eye, you see somebody getting hit with light tubes, you're immediately,
it's definitely the shock value to it. Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then, oh boy.
And death matches. Sorry, not to cut you off, Mo, but death matches weren't. Obviously, as I said, as a fan, was being from the bigger companies, and then even when WCW closed down and things like that, got into TNA. I really didn't start following the indies until I had a friend of mine once I became part of different, chat rooms and forum boards and stuff like that in 2010. That's when I got people say, hey, you should watch Ring of Honor, you should watch CZW, you should watch Chikara, PWG, places like that. And that's when I really got acclimated to the indies. And in CZW's case, that was the first time I really had seen full scale death matches. Maybe I had seen on YouTube or the infancy days of YouTube or stuff like that. So maybe some small little clips of crazy deathmatch spots, but it really, like, even, which is crazy to say, just being in this area, which is prime real estate for deathmatch wrestling.
Definitely.
Just really wasn't paying attention too much to it during the heyday of CZW in the 2000s and whatnot. Yeah. But once I got into it, it's like, okay, it's a different type of wrestling. It's definitely not something I was used to, but I definitely grew into really liking it. And I started going to CZW shows right around the time that they started running the Flyer Skate Zone in Voorhees. So this was about 2012. At the time, also, I started getting part in the journalist world of wrestling. I worked for a website called WrestleView.com, specifically doing independent wrestling news coverage, and I would watch shows and do recaps of them, very detailed and stuff like that. And I also started getting into podcasts. WrestleView.com at that time, they had their audio content behind a paywall that you would pay $5 a month. They were kind of early on in doing the paywall audio content, like only a couple of other sites.
What Fightful's doing right now.
Yes, they were one of like only a few websites. I think it was just them, PW Torch, PW Insider, and obviously Figure 4 Online. They were the only ones that were doing audio content behind a paywall. They joined that. It was hit or miss in terms of the amount of people that listen, but I wound up doing a weekly independent wrestling show, just covering everything about the indies. And then some of the smaller scale stuff, like for WrestleV, I was somehow able to do it. I don't know how, still to this day, was able to get the last year of Florida Championship Wrestling, which during that time, which a lot of people would say is the building blocks and foundation to what would later become NXT. So I was getting that and be able to cover that show. And then obviously the early days of NXT when you still had to really dig down and search for it online to be able to watch it before it got put onto the network. So I did that for 7 years. And then I just grew tired of dealing with the people that were in charge of that website, because they were they wanted to pattern WrestleView as a very pro WWE website. They were one of those websites that looked down on everything else that wasn't WWE. No matter how big of a news story that something outside of the WWE would take place, they always wanted to put something WWE related content above it because they felt it got more clicks and they got more views.
Yeah, those types of places I'm a little iffy on myself, because I'm one of those that, I get it. There's different tastes when wrestling. Some people like one thing, some people like others. Then there's people like me that if you put wrestling on in front of me, I'll sit down and watch it. Right. And people that are, with WWE and AEW right now, especially.
Oh yeah,
people having to be one way or the other. I'm like, I enjoy people from all the damn companies.
Like, it's just it realistically, the WWE versus AEW thing, it's very much, it's just part and parcel of what's going on just in everywhere nowadays. It's not really, it's the wrestling community taking what they see on your name a news site, and it just trickles down into that community. That's all it is. WWE and AEW to me is is about as simple and straightforward as if you are on a red state or a blue state. Like, or if you're talking basketball, are you team LeBron or are you team Michael Jordan in terms of who's the greatest of all time? It's a lot, unfortunately, nowadays is meant to be pick a side. It's not.
Yeah.
You really can't be on the middle in really anything anymore. There is no such thing as being in the middle. As much as people try to be, and believe me, I try to be too. But then when I see so much, especially now, like with so much anti AEW, it's like, well, I just want to be on that side just because it's like somebody has to, somebody has to call out the truth of what goes on the other side, like it. And again, it's like, yes, I'm in the business. I'm a commentator for a company, but that doesn't mean I still don't have opinions and viewpoints that I feel like I want to put out there on a social media platform.
Oh yeah.
Out there to the thing. And you can like it or you not like it. It's not really, it's your choice to decide if you like what I have to say or you don't. I'm not going to lose sleep over it.
Yeah. Wrestling is very subjective.
Yes.
It's like everybody has their opinions on it and nobody's really wrong. That's the way you think of it.
Yeah. And the issue is, and now the unfortunate thing now is, though, it is, if you disagree, you're wrong. There's no just listening to, and again, it just goes back from what's being shown at the top, and again, the trickle down effect. It's just whatever. There's no listening. It's just yelling.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I know. I brought in a friend of mine that we do a secondary thing on the channel that we literally call it My 2 Cents.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I mean, we go over all sorts of stuff. I know on the way to the Revolver show, we recorded about 3 different episodes on the way there. We were just like, well, we need something to do to entertain ourselves on this trip. So we went and did that.
Yeah, like currently outside of what I do as a commentator, I've gotten myself in the last couple of months back into the world of podcasts, and I've always wanted to get back into it after I stopped doing the stuff with WrestleView. So I pretty much stopped cold turkey being a podcaster, being a journalist. I didn't decide, I'm going to try and work for another website, or I'm going to try and start up this new thing somewhere else. No, I just decided, because it just left such a bad taste in my mouth how it all ended.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be done with it altogether, but I still at the same time wanted to get back into it because, again, my biggest thing is I love to just talk professional wrestling. I like to talk with people, whether it's old, new, whatever. I like to talk about, because it's been part of my life for 30 years.
Nope, I can completely understand. That's part of why I started this podcast, because I'm like, I just enjoy talking wrestling.
Right.
Whoever it'll be. I even have categories in here that I have different questions on that I keep in there just because I love hearing the damn stories behind it.
Right. Yeah, and now what I do is I'm part of these, it's a smaller podcast, but it's these group of guys that do this podcast that's called the Tourney Time podcast. And what they do is the moderator of the show will make a bracket of a greatest something every episode. 64 format, very much like March Madness. And it's up to myself and the 2 other people on the show to debate and decide who moves on and all that. We just recorded, and it'll be out in a couple of days, the best match of this year. We had stopped the what's it called, the nominations as of the Survivor Series. So we went through in 64 matches and went through and debated and discussed and went about 3 hours, and we came up to the conclusion. I'm obviously not going to spoil it. I want you guys to check it out. It's Tourney Time Podcast on YouTube. Check it out, everybody.
Definitely we'll get that in there.
Yeah, we're going to do the best match of the year, the best wrestler of the year as well. That'll be coming up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we also just did the best Survivor Series match. We've done a lot of different best of. We very rarely we'll do like the worst of. I mean, it's always funny to do worst of things, but it's always better to talk to. Sometimes it's best sometimes to talk the good about wrestling. So we always do the best of part.
Oh yeah, there's already plenty out there going over the negative side. It's good to spread the positive side of stuff.
Yes, indeed.
Now, one thing with going back to H2O that it kind of got me thinking when we were talking about deathmatch wrestling with Uncharted Territory and the Deathmatch Discovery Gauntlet they got going on right now. Right. I remember one time I was actually sitting with my wife and I was watching that, and oh God, I'm trying to remember who it was. I know Anthrax was one of them.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember the other person, but there was like a whole bunch of carpet strips and like stuff was like lining the ropes. I think it was carpet strips that were kind of like.
I think it was the match with Chris Bradley.
It might have been that one.
I believe it was the second week of the gauntlet where we just for everybody's watching this. This is
that one.
This is December the 5th, so we just had our 5th week. So this would have been week 2 with Anthrax and Bradley.
Yeah. I remember now. And I remember my wife asking me, are those carpet strips? And then they started with them, and she's like, oh, is that necessary? And I'm like, yeah.
No, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, and then the ref was helping somebody set up something, and she's like, is the ref really helping him out there? I'm like, deathmatch wrestling, it happens.
Yeah. But it's I've been to be able to do this will be next year will be 4 years I've been able to do commentary, and I'll be the first to say I've had my hits and misses, and there's been times where I've felt like I was done early on because at first I was able to be afforded a lot of opportunities I wouldn't have gotten early on because of the pandemic, and the person at the time that was doing the main play-by-play commentary for H2O, Dan Cowley, he wasn't able to make it a lot of the times just because of his own family situation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was able to be, fortunately or unfortunately, be able to be afforded many opportunities to be able to call shows during that year that if there wasn't a pandemic, I wouldn't have been able to be calling those shows, and fortunately, got probably a little bit too ahead of myself those first few months, and it got, it did. I'll be the first to say it got me in hot water. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was, still even coming in. I was just new to all of this being on the other side. And there was definitely a couple of points where I could have been said, hey, we appreciate you trying, but, thanks for coming. If you want to still come, buy a ticket, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was about a good solid year that I didn't really call any shows at all, but thankfully was able to get past that. And the last year or so consistently been able to be on the helm for every H2O show, since last fall.
Yeah. And
I'm always grateful. I will always be grateful to Matt and to Chrissy for giving me the opportunity to be able to live out my dream, because this is what I always wanted to do as a kid, is to be calling play-by-play for a professional wrestling company. I'll always be grateful to that.
Yep, that is definitely something on my bucket list. Maybe through an opportunity I get through the podcast, maybe.
Right.
But, doing something like getting to sit down even if just for part of a show. Or I've done special guest ring announcing, so getting to do that for part of a show again would be pretty cool. But
Right.
I'll take the opportunity when it comes. But yeah,
Is it?
I can understand being able to live out that dream is something special.
Yeah, it's what I'm always thankful every single time I get to call a show on IWTV. The guys that behind IWTV are great guys. Gary, Smart Mark Gary, Jerry that runs IWTV, John who mans a lot of the backstage production, and all of their cameramen, Drew Chaos, a couple others. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting your names, but all of the people behind the production at IWTV have been great helps to me the last couple of years. So I couldn't have asked for better people to help me lead along and help me with cues and stuff like that, because that's still all new stuff and whatnot. So all those people being able to help out, and to every single guy or gal that has stepped foot in a ring that I've been able to call a match of theirs with, no matter where you're at in your professional wrestling career, where you have your first match or you're 10, 15 years in, my job is to just try and provide the soundtrack to your match and do the best I can to make it better. It's always said with commentary, you can make a decent match good, you can make a good match great, you can make a great match iconic, you can make it memorable. That's why that's why at least with me when I do play by play, is that's my job. That's my end goal, is to make, when somebody's winning a championship or they have a big moment in an angle or something like that, it's to make it memorable with the call and try and bring as much passion and drive to it as I can. And people make mistakes. Everybody does. I still do. No one's perfect, but it's just, you keep learning every single day. And okay, I made this mistake here. Hopefully next show I can rectify that.
Oh yeah, and as long as you're learning from something like a slip up and you're doing what you can to improve, that's what counts right there.
Yes, and I'm very happy and thankful to be able to have called a lot of great moments. One of the first shows I was able to call during when we came back from the pandemic, and we're running very small shows with very little groups of people, just because of the limitations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Was the moment that Low Life Louis Ramos was able to win the H2O Heavyweight Championship. That was one of the very first shows I was fortunate enough to be able to call, and I still remember being able to do that to this day and be able to provide. Hopefully, I haven't spoken to Louis about it, but hopefully I was able to make that moment be special to him. Alongside my broadcast partner that I had at the time, a gentleman by the name of Nick Rond, who, he stepped away from pro wrestling, but he was a very good color commentator. He had an encyclopedia of knowledge, and encyclopedia of words and stuff like that he could use to describe things. He was very good at what he did, and I hope at some point he's able to get back into this, because he was very good at his job, and I loved anytime I got to work with Nick.
It's awesome. And we talked H2O, and you've been there for a lot of the shows. They actually got correct me if I'm wrong, a couple shows as of recording this month, including one this coming Saturday, Killdozer's Field of Death.
Yes, Killdozer Field of Death.
That is shaping up. Words are hard. Shaping up to be one hell of a good-looking card right there.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Killdozer and Mouse. Fans bring the weapons, like two bundles. You got Lady Blakely and President Hawkins Taipei death match, which someone's going to die, and I don't think it's going to be Lady Blakely.
Yeah.
You got Anthrax and Leroy Robinson with thumbtacks and carpet strips. You got Outlet Stretch and Declan Grant paints of glass. You have even just as simple as a knockout or tap out only no holds barred match for the tag titles with Brian Neal and Duncan Aleem against Chaos Control. You have Jess Moss and Frank Benetti for the hybrid
The
title.
barbed wire boards.
Barbed wire boards. Yeah, it did Gigi Everson and Brandon Kirk in a supermarket sweep death match, which I'm hoping to play the role of the old supermarket sweep hosts.
That would be sweet. Oh my god.
That was one of my favorite. You wouldn't think as that 6-7-year-old kid would be a fan of supermarket sweep, but I was a big fan of that when I was a little kid.
Oh, dude, I love that show.
Yes, it's one of those ones. Like, so what game show would you ever want to actually go on and actually try out for and be a part of? That would be the one.
That, or when I was a kid, oh god, that Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Little before my time, just because it was mid '90s. Like, I do remember watching it later on when they would play reruns between that and Guts and what would you do? What would you do? And Double Dare and then Nick Arcade was definitely before my time. That was in the '80s.
I was just thinking of that one. Oh man, I was always so jealous of the people on that one because I'm like, oh, that would be so much fun.
Yes.
Now
they try to bring it back, but they made more so just made it a movie, the Legends of the Hidden Temple thing.
Oh yeah, the Legend of the Hidden Temple. Yeah, I heard they were going to try to do like a adults one, but I don't know whatever the hell happened with that.
The problem is, especially with a lot of the stuff in TV and movies nowadays, they keep trying to rehash stuff, and nothing's original anymore. And it's anytime you try and do a rehash, it's not going to be as good as the original. It just never is.
That is true. And the other show that I was wanting to talk about, because I don't believe they've really announced too much for this one yet. Torn to Shreds.
Yes, that will be our final show of the year on December the 23rd, 2 days before Christmas. Obviously, that's one where you got to stay tuned to social media to see about potential matches and stuff like that. There's a couple matches I'm hoping take place in that card, obviously personally and stuff like that. But, it's one of those things. Is just you just got to watch H2O and just find out what's going to happen. That's all you can do. And also the last couple of weeks of Uncharted Territory.
Oh yeah,
we have two more. We have 2 more episodes of Uncharted Territory for season 5 coming up. If anybody didn't watch the show last night, go out of your way to watch Joey Janela versus Cruel.
Oh god, Joey Janela versus Cruel. Oh yeah,
my goodness.
There's only been one episode that I didn't watch as it was live. That was last week. I'm open about mental health stuff. I was having kind of a bad mental health day that day, so I'm like,
right. I've dealt with that stuff too. So hey, you and me both, my friend.
But I did end up watching it like a day or two later. But last night, yes, anybody that has IWTV, and if you don't, oh my god, get it and go watch this last week's.
IWTV puts out a lot of great stuff right now, not just the stuff that we do at the H2O Wrestling Center. You have the monthly Life of series. They just premiered the one with Tony Deppen, which is very well done, very good. There's one a month or so ago with Neil Diamond Cutter. Followed along all his finally being able to go tour internationally in Japan. Marcus Mavericks did a 2-part series back in October. You should check out. I have a lot of time for that kid. That kid, I was there. I was there as a fan for his very first match against his dad on an Undiscovered taping, and I knew a couple matches in that this kid is going to be something. And he's not made me a liar. He's definitely not made me a liar, and he's one of the best on the independent scene right now. And the match he had last night with Jordan Oliver speaks to that as well.
Oh yes, that was amazing. And then the match you were talking about, Joey Janela versus Cruel, that one spot where Janela's literally hanging from the rafter and dropping onto Cruel with like, this doesn't give away any spoilers for those that haven't watched, but
Oh,
ladder.
it's a clip that's made the rounds on social media, so it's not really spoiling anything. I don't think.
Yeah, I would like to think so, but yeah, when I saw him climbing that ladder and then reaching up there, I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah, it was a pretty much a recreation of the famous spot he did with Leo Rush during their big trilogy of matches in 2016.
Yeah, yeah, I do remember seeing some of those.
Yeah, it pretty much a similar. It was very similar to that maneuver.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it was just a crazy match. Definitely, like I said, definitely check it out. Go subscribe to IWTV. It's IWTV.live. It's $10 a month. You won't be upset in spending $10 a month on all of the content provided on IWTV.
Oh, good Lord. The amount of stuff they have on there, not just H2O, ICW, No Holds
ICW No Holds
Barred,
Barred, Beyond Wrestling, West Coast
exactly.
Pro, Prestige Wrestling. CZW has gone back itself back on IWTV with some of their more recent shows. Not only do I do H2O wrestling commentary, I've been fortunate enough to be over the last year or so calling the action for Stan Styles Intergender Bonanza. And there's a show coming up on December the 22nd, excuse me. Friday, December 22nd, a day before H2O's Torn to Shreds, will be How the CWO Stole Christmas. That's the tagline for the next Intergender Bonanza show, as well as Sean Henderson Promotions, and Bloodstorm Pro, the company run by Travis Doom and Mother Endless. Have been fortunate enough to be able to call their shows as well. So I've been it's been very I've been very fortunate for what I've been able to do in a short period of time.
That is awesome. Now, I got some categories here.
Okay.
But before we get into those, what are you looking forward to in the upcoming year? I mean, we're in the last month of 2023. What are you looking forward to for 2024?
For me, myself personally, I'm looking to try and branch out and start traveling a little bit and be able to apply my trade and hopefully being able to call shows for other companies when the time affords. It's very difficult for me travel wise. I don't drive a vehicle. I don't have a license, so it's definitely a roadblock in my way for sure.
Yeah.
But I will just do what I need to do, whatever needs to be done to achieve that goal. With Uncharted Territory, was been able to be provided the opportunity to be able to do some interviewing. First time doing something on camera standpoint, which at first, you have those first time jitters and whatnot, being able to be on camera, which, something I'm not accustomed to because, most of 100% of the time with the broadcast, they don't do those cutaways to the commentary team, whatnot for H2O shows. So it's, at first it definitely was something I was not used to, but I've been getting a little bit more comfortable each and every week since then. So I would actually like to maybe start trying to do some more on camera work as well. In what capacity, I don't know, but at least something to be able to just expand my horizons and things like that. But all in all, just, hoping for a great year of professional wrestling, hoping a great year for us at H2O. We continue to make strides. We continue to show why we're one of the best Northeast independent promotions in the country. One of the best deathmatch wrestling companies out there as well. With our continued partnership with ICW No Holds Barred, the fine folks there, we've had a great working relationship, I would say, with them for over the last year or so.
Yeah,
So it's been fun, and obviously with WrestleMania weekend being here in the Philadelphia area and then the outer suburbs, who knows what we're going to have here with us at H2O? But I'm sure be cooking up something. It would be safe to say I don't think we're going to be silent during that WrestleMania weekend.
I would say that's probably a safe bet myself.
Yeah.
All right, now, like I said, I got two categories here. One's bit of a name game where I try to theme it towards the guess as much as possible.
Okay.
This one was kind of easy for me to do because not only have each of these people been a past guest,
Okay.
each of these people have also been through the doors of H2O.
Okay.
First one, and I give you the name, you give me some quick thoughts on the person.
Okay.
First one, the current hybrid champ, Jess Moss.
This is interesting already because Jess does not like anything positive said about her. She's not a I know you mentioned earlier about you being your own worst critic. Jess is and I think she'll be the first to say she's that herself. But from where she was a year ago to where she is now, she has made so much strides inside the ring, and even just as a performer, just allowing her, breaking out of her shell in a lot of ways. I think a big proponent to me is entrance music. I think that's a big part of a person's presentation. I'm not a fan. I'm not a big fan of when guys or gals, whoever it is, they every month or every couple months they'll switch their music to something else. It's a very big thing to me. It's like you find that piece of music and you stick with it because that's how the audience recognizes you when you come out to the ring.
Oh,
I think her adding that, Shania Twain, that was a big proponent for Jess. I think that really allowed her to hit another level.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I first heard that with her, I'm like, before I saw her come out, I'm like, okay, this is different. And then I see her come out, I'm like, okay, I get it.
It's very rare that you would hear a country music song in a deathmatch wrestling company. But, but she has been able to make it work. And like I said, outside the ring, she's a great person, great mother to a little girl. Her and Declan I would consider both of them friends. They've been both very gracious towards me with their, in giving support and stuff like that. So I have all the time in the world for both Jess and for Declan. But yeah, she's done really good for herself this year. And hey, you put the work in, you get to be able to call yourself a champion. Jess has been able to do so. A lot of time for her, and she'll also never let me live down the evening of New Year's Eve where everybody was spending time hanging out at the H2O Wrestling building, to celebrate New Year's, and I got had a little bit too much liquid courage and all the pizza rolls. So she will never let me live that down. So I know she is laughing right now about that story.
That is awesome. All right. Next one, low life Louis Ramos.
Well, firstly, the entire Ramos family, another group of people that I've been fortunate enough to meet and I would again consider friends. Louis, his wife Angela, their daughter, and little Louis Jr., all such great people. Louis is one of the nicest people you'll ever get a chance to meet.
Oh, totally.
I don't particularly agree with his choice of sports teams that he's a fan of, But hey, when you much like myself, living right by Philadelphia, he lived all right by New York City, so you can't fault someone for who they like. You can't.
Oh yeah.
But it's fun to it's fun when it's the Phillies or Mets or Eagles and Giants and whatnot to have that back and forth. But yeah, Louis is such a great person. He's done so much for so many people. He's done so much for outlets. it really, I think, has been I would safe to say a mentor to Alex during this time to allow him to be able to grow and help him be a deathmatch wrestler. So, anybody to me, it's again, Stretch was my friend before wrestling. He'll be my friend Rolen after wrestling. We're brothers from another mothers. So to me, anybody that takes the time out, anybody that has taken the time out, whether it's somebody that's coming to H2O or if he's going to some other place to work and has taken their time out to help him out and take care of him, I'm very grateful that they will do anything they can to make my best friend's dream come true. So Louis has done a lot for Stretch, and he's got a lot. He's done a lot for myself too. So Louis, I have all the time in the world for.
Oh yeah, I was definitely happy to get to pick his brain for a bit and to have him on. It was definitely a favorite episode. Next one, JB Anderson.
JB is somebody that's been new to us over the last year, but once you get to know him, you think you've known him for years upon end. He's a very good dude. He started late in this. Like I didn't realize it until getting to talk with him. That he's even older than myself, and other than like some of the veterans that we have in the locker room, he's one of the older guys that we have here. But he's been able to do a lot for himself. I think he's, especially over the last couple of months, has really been able to find himself with the bonk and utilizing that, which is still a very, it's even, here in the Northeast, the metal, the heavy metal, punk metal scene, it's a very big thing in clubs and stuff like that, in small places where they have concerts and whatnot, and where he's from in the Baltimore area. So for him to be able to tap into that kind of world and be able to bring that to which is, to me, is tailor made for that kind of environment, which is deathmatch wrestling, to be able to mix the two together, he's really done well for himself, and he's really found himself as a performer. His promos have been hitting on all cylinders. His match, is being able to, since coming back from his wrist injury, he's come back and he's making up for lost time in a quick, fast, and in a hurry way. And I see a lot for JB in our company and hopefully in other companies next year.
Oh yeah, and another thing with him, another thing going back to last night's Uncharted Territory, when I saw him out there, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. I was not sure when I was going to see him next, because he's been open about a personal thing that happened. So I was like, I didn't know if he was going to be taking a little bit of time off, but to see him out there and seeing him in his element and doing a damn good job, I was definitely happy to see it.
Sometimes the best thing you can do is doing what you love, and it takes your mind off of it.
No, totally. All right. Last but not least, this guy has been a thorn in the side of a lot of people.
Oh boy,
Anthrax.
Oh, Anthrax. Well, again, don't have that much time for him right now. Obviously, with his dealings with Stretch, but I can't take away his talent, because he does have a lot of talent. Another person that started late. That they thought they were going to be part of it earlier on. They stepped away and they got back into it. And even coming in at a later age, he has been able to do a lot for himself. So I can't take that away from him. What he's doing right now, I'm obviously not a fan of. I don't agree with it. He still has the supporters no matter what. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Again, I question people's sanity if you think it's okay to attack a woman, someone's girlfriend. It's like, if that was your girlfriend, how would you feel?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And But hey, to each their own. That's all I gotta say. And I have firm belief that this thing with Stretch is going to be settled once and for all very, very soon.
Oh,
Hey, you know what? We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens from there.
As actually with him, as of this recording, his episode is getting released tomorrow.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
So that's gonna be that was a fun one.
Like I said, I don't really have too much time for him right now as a person, just because of the choices he's made and who he's decided to align himself with, and all stuff like that. You know, people, especially the last couple of shows, people can say what they want about my commentary and feeling like, taking things personal. It's like, hey, if you have a best friend and that stuff was done to you, I think you would feel the same way. So,
yeah.
Again, you can agree or disagree with my commentary. Again, I'm not going to lose any sleep at night. I understand as a play-by-play guy, we have to be professional, but that's why I put the disclaimer on before those matches. I say, hey, I'm not going to be unbiased here, everybody. I'm just telling you right now. You take that for what you will. At least I'm being honest with you. I'm not trying to, make something up.
Oh, totally get you there.
I do have all the respect in the world for Anfratz as a performer. He is good at what he does.
Yeah, definitely. All right, now I have some random questions.
Okay.
Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some might have absolutely nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far.
Okay.
That's why it's random. I give you the question, you give me a first answer that pops into your head.
All right.
First one. What is one of the craziest in-match moments you've been able to witness, being part of the voice of H2O Wrestling?
There's been a lot. There's been a lot of crazy moments over the last couple of years. I wasn't on the call, but the whole main event from when we had the Destiny show back in Trenton, that was something. That was something in more ways than one. In terms of something I've called, probably that 700 light tube death match, Matt Tremont and Neil Diamond Cutter. Just the moment where they go off the apron for that entire bed of tubes. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. That would be nuts. Yeah.
That's probably one of the craziest matches I've been fortunate enough to be able to call. is that one.
Oh, I would say so. Hard to beat that one. All right. Excuse me. Now, lots of people got hobbies. I know mine. Part of mine is displayed behind me here. Wow, words are hard. What do you say? You got a hobby that you enjoy outside of wrestling?
For me, it would be baseball. Baseball and wrestling when I was little were like very much 1 and 2.
Gotcha.
I was able to play. Wasn't able to ever do Little League or anything like that or be on a team, but played for fun and played maybe like just some pickup games or whatever when I was a teenager and stuff like that. But that's where my surname of Rolen comes from. It comes from baseball. Yeah. One of my favorite players when I was growing up, and obviously being a Phillies fan for going on 30 years now, was Scott Rolen. Scott Rolen, when I went to the old Veterans Stadium in the late 90s and whatnot, he was the number one guy here in Philadelphia for that team. And, people can, say what they want about Rolen and when he was there and they liked him or they hated him because they thought he was standoffish or whatever the case may be. I still considered him a great player and got a chance to meet him when they had those little photo nights when you got on the field and the players would come around and stuff like that. So, but yeah, baseball has always been right there with pro wrestling.
Oh yeah, no, I can understand you there. I know we a little bit before we hit record mentioned me being a big Padres fan.
Yeah,
I actually just recently was at a card shop here close by, and they this box full of these graded cards. So I was
Right.
looking through, just thinking, let's see. I happened to come across a graded Tony Gwynn, and I'm like, I want that.
Yeah. And you never know how much that can go for in the market because we got somebody just got their life savings for the rest of their life selling that Babe Ruth rookie card.
Oh,
just
God,
recently. Yeah. Like that thing sold for over $1 million. So when people they do away with their card collections, it's like, brother, I would not do that. You don't know how you go to some grader or whatever. You don't know how much these cards can go for.
Oh, God.
If you've kept them in great shape.
Oh, yeah. I got some ones in pretty great shape. Going to baseball, I got two of them from the year Derek Jeter was drafted.
So this will be in the mid-90s, yeah.
Yeah, like pretty damn mint condition. And then I got one from like the first year that he was like actually in the majors,
which would be 95 because his rookie season is considered 96, but he was a 40-man call up in 95.
But yeah, I got those. I got a couple Kobe Bryant rookies and like mint. So
yeah, it's like those ones. You can earn some good money for those. You really can.
And then like I mentioned, some of my hobby back here, wrestling figures. I got some sports stuff for my Padres, the Packers. I got some signed figures, which I always tell people this. I don't like buying ones already signed. I like taking it to the person, meeting them, and then maybe even getting a picture with them of either them or myself holding the figure.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same to grab something that's already been signed. You want that personal one-on-one experience with the person. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And like heck, I've been lucky enough to, directly behind me, Swerve and Keith Lee.
Okay.
Head Shrinker Fatu, Rikishi.
Right.
Drew McIntyre, Kushida, Rich Swann, John Morrison, and Taya Valkyrie. Lance Archer and Hangman Adam Page. I even got one of Jeff Cobb.
Yeah.
And then I even got some signed Funko Pops, like the Green Power Ranger, Jason David Frank, literally a couple months before everything happened with him.
Right.
And then I'm a big Ninja Turtle guy. I actually met the voice of Michelangelo from the original cartoon. Got him to sign. And then the guy behind Splinter in the first two movies, Kevin Clash, I got him to sign a Splinter one. So my little hobby. And
I used to have figures and I used to have a tape collection and all stuff like that, but with just multiple moves and stuff just gets lost in translation. You wind up parting with things you really don't want to part with, but that's just sometimes what it is.
Yeah, and also a big autograph guy. Like I have this habit. Well, I've started this tradition of when I get a picture with somebody at a show, that next time I know I'm going to meet them, I end up making an 8x10 out of it and getting them to sign it. And I'll just show one. Manders and Manser.
Yeah, so and then Manders is another one I had a little contentious relationship with in terms of on commentary or whatnot, but for all that, he's still a good dude. Regardless of what people think about him or whatever he's a good dude.
Dog. going crazy up there. All right, on to the next one. Now, I have heard plenty of people, and it gets me laughing when they talk about big lottery jackpots and like, oh, you can never spend that much money. I'm like, I always laugh and tell them, you give me that much money and tell me I have to spend all of it, it'll be gone before you even know it.
Exactly.
So basically, the question here is, if you had a big lottery jackpot and what I like to call fuck it money,
Right.
what is something you'd get?
Well, I think for me, obviously the first thing would be to, yeah, as someone that's lived in apartment complexes and things like that all throughout their life and still living at home, even even in the 30s, but it's dealing with family, who has, health issues. You can't. They still need the help. Whatever. It's frowned upon sometimes by people, but it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
But it would be to get a bigger place and be able to give back to the people that gave back to me. So it'd be get a big. If you're asking me right now on this day what I would do if I was given like a couple $1 million, it would be find a bigger place for myself and my family. It would be to help out my best friend, get him in a bigger place and get him a vehicle for him and his his woman. And then honestly, it would be to give back to Matt and to Chrissy, because they've gone through so much themselves and trying to just give back to trying to keep this keep the company going for as long as they have. And people that don't know, it's difficult to run an independent wrestling company. It very much is. It's very much hand over fist. And they made no bones about it that it's very lean for them. So to me, it's like they provided me the dream of getting to do what I love to do. And even if I never call and never show, it's important to know who helped you. Definitely. When they didn't have to.
Oh, for sure.
And and honestly, when no one else would, because no other wrestling school out there, no other independent company would have provided me the platform to be able to do this other than them. So I will always be eternally grateful. So if you told me that somebody put into my bank account $1 million or $2 million tomorrow, it would be to make sure that they have what they want for themselves and the best dog in the world and Sullivan and everything like that. That would be for me, and to make sure and be able to put money into that company to make sure we be able to upgrade our production, upgrade all this and that, get into a bigger building where we can be able to put more people in and be able to have a bigger place and a place that's our own.
Oh yeah.
That would be it for me.
No,
it's not. Yes. It's like obviously you want to make sure you take care of yourself first.
Yeah.
But I'm always somebody that I'm not really. I've always been somebody that doesn't really worry about myself first. I worry about other people.
Yeah, I've definitely been that way.
It's sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes it's a one-way street.
Yeah,
and that sucks because you would hope that it's even keel sometimes, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. You can help people. You try and do nice things for people, and then maybe just sometimes it's not just shown in return. You take that risk sometimes when you do it, but I'd rather take that risk than not do it at all.
Oh, Totally.
You know, so
Totally.
that would be my thing.
Okay. Right. Good, sensible way to go with that. Now, I would feel weird if I did not have this question in here with a name of a show like I have. But favorite drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, or one of each if you want.
Well, it's funny enough. I'm really not too much of a drinker. I will drink on occasion, socially, stuff like that. So I don't really have like too much of a favorite beverage. I'll I'm drinking a Miller Lite right now. So Miller Lite, when they ask for like a draft beer or something like that, that's my go to in regards to that would be Miller Lite. I don't really get into too much into like the wacky IPAs and
Gotcha.
I tried out the Broken Skull one when that came out and I was a big fan of that one. Haven't had the lager, the second one.
That one's delicious.
Yeah, I've not been able to get my hands on that. But yeah, it's not too much of a drinker. Like went out recently with a friend and they had like this made up drink called the Schwar Bomb. Obviously here in Philadelphia we call it Schwar, so it was very much like an orangey thing.
Yeah.
But that it was well done for what it was as a mixed drink and stuff like that. So, but I'm not really like a big time connoisseur of alcoholic beverages. But it's like if you go out to a bar, it's like if somebody's ordering shots or whatever, it's like I'll take whatever you want to give to me. It's like can't hurt. I ain't gonna. I don't think I'm going to keel over from a shot of what you give me, but hopefully not. But
No,
it is what it is.
I get it. All right, now as of recording this, we haven't been too far since Thanksgiving.
Right.
Big food holiday.
Yes.
Everybody has their favorite foods, but what would you say is a least favorite food of yours?
Sauerkraut.
Okay.
Cannot stand the smell. Like the smell makes me gag. Yeah, that. Like whenever it's made in my my home, I'm just like, why are you doing this? Like I'm just going. I literally need to step out and take a walk because I do not want to deal with the stench. Between that or like egg salad or coleslaw, something like that, like those things of just like, yeah, no, I'll pass.
Yeah, my wife loves egg salad sandwiches.
Or what is it? Scrapple. That's another one that has like a very raunchy kind of smell to it. So that's another one that's just like, yeah, no.
Yeah, me, deviled eggs. I can't.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not a fan of eggs in general. I'm just not. I'm not some like I was when I was little. Like because but at the same time, it's one of those things like where you're a little kid, you eat anything that's put in front of you, just you have to. So I would have like poached eggs or whatever when I was a little kid, but nowadays like I'll go to and get like the steak, egg, and cheese bagel or something like that from a McDonald's. I'll take the egg right off. It's like I just want a steak and cheese bagel with the onions. Like, don't give me the egg, please. I can't. I mean, there's options now where you can take it off, but it's like if it's just given to me, it's like, all right, well, I gotta take the 5 seconds to peel off the egg part of this and just go from there.
Oh, I can understand. All right. Last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into any part of wrestling, whether it be commentary or ring announcing, because a lot of people only think of the in-ring aspect of it. They don't think of commentary and ring announcing and that sort of stuff.
The thing I would say is if you think you have a good voice for it, then it doesn't hurt to try, especially in terms of a commentary ring announcing thing. that was part of my belief in terms of being able to do it. I felt I had a decent enough voice that I could be able to boom out and inflate my voice for the time necessary for whatever the situation called for. I think it's a thing. I think it's a thing where, like, even if you came in late to it, like I did, because I started when I was 30. I don't think it's something, I don't think pro wrestling is a thing that you can start whatever. Maybe if you're in terms of actually wrestling, it might be, you know, in your 30s might be a little bit too late, but we've seen with other people that they've been able to break that mold. So that you never know. You just never know. You just have to have the drive for it and whatnot. It's just it's if it's something you really want to do, it's something that's your passion. And to me, the biggest thing is you got to be a fan. I'm not if you're just in, yes, it's the wrestling business. You're here to make money, but you should have some semblance of being a fan.
Definitely.
I think, and you should. And the other thing I think is, I have time for people who want to learn about wrestling. I have time for people that want to learn about the history of wrestling, because you're only going to get better if you know what came before you.
Definitely.
If you're coming in, you only know what's happened in wrestling over the last couple of years. It's just like, okay, great, you're a fan of this day, but you should have at least some knowledge and go back. It's just like anything else. It's any ever course that you study. It's any ever facet that you study. If you're going to college for something, or you're going to apply a trade something, you want to learn the history of that thing. So you have the know-how to take something from the old days and bring it to today, or see what's happened before and take from it and adapt it and make it better.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
It's about passion. It's about if you think you have it to do it, and it's you always want to also have a good support system.
Definitely,
I think as well. It's if you do it by yourself, hey, cool, because people didn't want to support you, whatever, because then you want to have that drive, that passion to want to prove those people wrong. So that's also, at the same time, that's a good thing to have too, but it's always good also to have that support system that has your back. I wouldn't have been able to get the notion to want to start being a broadcaster without people supporting me, and they know who they are. So if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have taken that step to be like, hey, let me see if I can do this.
No, definitely. The good support system can definitely be a key in, getting you past those moments where you might be just thinking you're a little drained, but then they kind of help push you along.
Yeah, it's especially if you're feeling down on yourself, they're there for you to push you back up and realize why you did it in the first place, and not want to, make an early exit. Because believe me, I've had that a couple of times myself, where like, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe just the aspect of the business itself is just not for me. Yeah. Maybe this is where I need to see my end. But to have those people there that tell you not to do that and just keep pushing along, man, that's why I'm still doing it now.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, and where you can be with H2O, they can go ahead and get them there.
So both my socials, it's the same for Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it, as well as Instagram. It's Jason Rolen H2O. That's where you can find me. Facebook, I don't really like to have too many people because they've had some weird instances. So I don't really like to do the Facebook thing all that much. Yeah. But definitely Twitter and Instagram is where you can follow. As well, like I said, as I mentioned earlier, the podcast that I'm a part of, Tourney Time Podcast, their social is Tourney Time Pod, POD. You can find that on Twitter. They have it on YouTube as well. That's where we do shows at least once a week. If not, at least 2 shows a month. We'll be doing shows. Myself, this gentleman in Texas by the name of Anthony, and these 2 guys, Patrick and Joseph, have their own podcast called In Mom's Basement. They have their own little wrestling podcast as well. So we do that ever so often. So definitely check that out. Obviously H2O, H2O Wrestling, H2O Wrestling on Twitter. I believe it's H2O Wrestling on Instagram as well. The Facebook page, there's a fan group that you guys can check out. IWTV, IWTV.live is where you can listen to the broadcast, $10 a month. And that's about it. Mel, want to thank you for having me on. I greatly appreciate you reaching out, and it's my first interview as a commentator. Usually beforehand when I was on the other side, it was me doing the interview. So it's interesting and weird all at the same time to be on the other side of things. So, but I appreciate the time and make me feel comfortable and all that and whatnot. I want to be able to thank a couple people real quick before we get out here. As I continue on, there's been many people I've been able to work with and whatnot, and have really helped me. People like Joey T, Joe Stamper. He's been very helpful. One of my broadcast colleagues for H2O. Sean Henderson, he gave me opportunity very much early on doing his shows and been able to do it ever since. Sean's one of the nicest guys you will meet in pro wrestling. Sometimes you would say almost too nice, just because of just the aspects of the business, but he doesn't care. He wants to bring nice, just being nice and being kind to pro wrestling, and I love him for it. Eric from Bloodstorm Pro, who's been able to have me be part of the infancy of his promotion. Stan Styles, who has given me the opportunity to be able to call the Intergender Bonanza shows. MLJ, he's been, I would say he's my commentary mentor. We bicker on commentary, we bicker on commentary back and forth, especially as of late. But I've known Emil since before I became a broadcaster. We were part of our own podcast. It was called the Pile Driver Podcast back in the day. I've known Emil since the days of Dojo Wars with CZW. And when I got started being a commentator, he's always reached out and given me advice and given me tips and tips of the trade and things like that. Even to this day, he still does. So Emil, I can't thank him enough for what he has been able to help me out with and whatnot to be a better broadcaster. And then obviously, finally, every guy and gal in H2O, I thank you all for taking me into your locker room, especially the veterans, welcoming me with open arms, not acting like I'm a nobody or whatever. If they've had something for me that they want to get across, they're always right there to mention to me, because that all it is for me is to be able to make myself better and be able to help them. So thank all of them, because they do the hard stuff. I'm just up on top of the Eagle's nest, just calling the action. So definitely thank all of them, and then of course Matt and Chrissy. Without them, I'm not doing this. Without them, I'm not doing this. And last but not least, Alex, my best friend. My brother to the end. Love him to the day I die. Him and his whole family, who have been very important in my life. Siblings of his and things like that. They've been very, very important in my life, just as much as he has. And, I hope, he's not somebody that's all for those, those things like that. But, I hope to be able to stand right beside him at, when he has his big moment one of these days, not just in the ring, but outside the ring.
Oh, most definitely. Definitely. Well, that is about all I have. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It was a pleasure. Best of luck, H2O, Bloodstorm, intergender, intergender bonanza by like my
Yes.
tongue
Yes.
twister, tongue twister there. But best of luck in all of those and anywhere you go from here. And you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, I had a lot of fun, Mo. I'll be happy to come back here.
Definitely. Thank you very much.